history, there have been terrible criminal cases that have taken the, the lives of many innocent people. Serial killers, swindlers, thieves, and narcissistic killers. Many criminal cases and some unsolved forensic cases have marked the history of the criminality in the world. The cinema has presented shocking histories of serial killers and thoughtless murder. On television, a series about a forensic scientist who killed criminals was very successful at the time. Unfortunately, many of these cases are inspired by real criminal cases, terrible events that have taken the lives of innocent people, innocent men, women, and children. The Zodiac murder are among the most famous unsolved criminal cases in the world. The crime that took place in late 16th and early 17th involved a series of letters that been sent to the three major California newspapers, including the San Francisco Chronicle. The known murderer had confessed in his letter to committing the crimes and threatened to commit more if his letters were not published. Authorities counted between 7 and 30 homicides attributable to the Zodiac, who said he killed to get rid of his terrible migraines. In his letters, the killer not only confessed the crimes, but also sent reels about his identify and evidence of his crimes and his victims. After more than 50 years, the Zodiac murder case remains an unanswered and is one of the most shocking unsolved cases of the history. Although the authorities in 1971 captured a young man with a strange behavior who fit the profile of the killer, but his fingerprints didn't match those found on the letters. He was Arthur Leigh Allen, the prime suspect in the Zodiac crimes and who was convicted at the time and died in prison in 1982. Ted Bundy is one of the most famous serial killers whose popularity has had a second boost thanks to the movies and documentaries on Netflix. He will have been considered to be the author of one of the most notorious criminal cases of the 20th century. More than 30 homicides in the several states of the United States are attributed to him. Ted Bundy was a manipulative and dangerous man and was considered one of the worst criminals in the world. When he was captured, he claimed that he had to kill 36 women who he raped, strangled, and mutilated after his death. However, the authorities suspect that the real number of the victims is much higher than he said. This is the one of the most shocking real criminal cases in the history. He was finally captured in February 1978 after several appeals and sentenced to death in Florida in 1979 after a highly theatrical trial in which he defended himself and won many fans. Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair in 1989 in Florida State Prison. Pedro Lopez is probably one of the most cruel and ruthless murder cases in human history. The murderer, also known as the Master of the Andes, is linked to at least 300 violent deaths in Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. For a decade, Lopez kidnapped, raped, and murdered hundreds of girls in broad daylight, most of them indigenous. He tricked them with gifts and then took them to secluded places to abuse them and finally strangled them. When he was captured, some 50 graves of his preteen victims were discovered. The Master of the Andes was arrested in 1980s and convicted for the murder of 110 girls in Ecuador. Despite having confessed to another 240 criminal homicides in Colombia and Peru, he was released in 1988 for good behavior. Today, his whereabouts are unknown. As interesting as the most famous serial killers are, it must be remembered that they are nothing more than serial criminals, and they don't deserve any kind of romanticization or admiration. Unlike the fictional representation as such as Dexter, uh, these serial killers are people like any others. It is important that I should have taken the necessary care of relating these stories. If there hadn't been so many McCrave stories like this, anyone could go out on the streets and wouldn't be so risky and go out and fear something like this could happen to them. Which reminds me that what could happen now is that I will end with this video. Goodbye.